Hi, I'm Roxanne Carter, and this is block 9 of our 2019 technique sampler. So this one is flying geese that we're going to learn the technique today. I love my block lock flying geese rulers, but you can also use Eleanor Burns' large flying geese ruler for this 2x4 flying geese that we are making today. So we also have some corners here that make it kind of look like flying geese, but they're really half squares and folded corners. So here's our pattern, and the first step that we're going to do on our pattern is we're going to do the folded corners on our main print center square. And so you can take and add your 2.5 inch square corners onto the 4.5 inch back main print. Draw a line, so on the line, flip them back, trim it away 1/4 inch. And then once you get those done, you can do the next two sides. You can either draw the line, or you can take your triangles and you can fold them in half and press them, and then you can just sew right in the crease of that line. You want to make sure that you do trim these back before you add the other two sides on. So our next step is our flying geese. And the way I like to do the flying geese is Eleanor Burns' Quilt in a Day technique method, but I like to use the block lock for the trimming up when we're done, which I'll show you. So this is our accent 6 square, which is 7 inches, and our accent 2 square, which is 5.5. And so we center these two squares on there, and then you draw a line. You can either crease both of them and center the two creases to line them up, but you just want to make sure that they're equal sides, equal distance on each side. Then we're going to sew 1/4 inch on both sides of the line. We're also going to do the same thing with our 7 inch background and our accent 1 5.5 inch squares. So actually we're going to make 2 of these. Only one set of these, but 2 sets of these. So once we sew on the line on both sides, we're going to cut apart on the line, and then we have these units here. So I'm going to put them back together again the way they are when we cut apart. So I've sewn on both sides. I'm now going to take and I'm going to open them up, and we're going to press the seams to the larger triangle. Always press to the larger triangle. Then we put them opposite each other. So the background goes to the accent and the accent goes to the background. The center seam does not match. There's a gap there, and that's for our trimming purposes. So we're going to get 4 sets of flying geese out of each set of squares. So once we sew 1/4 inch on both sides of the line, then we are able to trim our flying geese up. Okay, so if you have the 1/4 inch foot for your sewing machine, then I just line the edge of my foot up to the line that I've drawn, my center diagonal line, and so I can now just sew right along there. Get rid of my starting thread, and so I can just sew right along with that 1/4 inch foot riding right on the line all the way down. When I get to the end, I can just take it over, turn it around, and do the other side. Now I'm going to cut apart on the line. And then before we can press, we have to fold this in half, and we're going to take our scissors and we're going to slit that fold right down to the seam. It doesn't matter if you go through the seam or not, because all that part is waste. And now we're going to open it up and we're going to press to the larger triangle. And so we're going to press from the front side so we make sure we don't get any fold overs, and then I'll show you how to trim them up. Always pressing to the larger triangle. That way the block lock has a seam to lock onto. Can use the Eleanor Burns ruler also, but I don't have the 2x4 flying geese ruler for her set right now. So I'm going to show you the block lock. So this is the block lock ruler. It has these grooves right here, and those grooves flock right onto those two seams that we've sewn. So this is why this one makes it so nice to do. We can take and we can just cut apart, and then we can cut on this side, and then we can turn the mat around, or we can, I like my little rotating mat, which is in the other room. But there you can go and you get perfect flying geese. I can take and do the next one, and you will get all 4 of the flying geese, because on the other half of this one, we're going to get 2 as well. So once we have all of our flying geese put together, we're going to sew them in sets of 3, just like the picture shows. The 2 accent ones pointing to the accent 2 with accent 6 as the outside edge. Okay, so now we're on to step 4, making our half squares. And so our half squares are our accent 4-inch squares, and our background 4-inch squares. You draw a diagonal line, 1/4 inch on both sides if you don't have a 1/4 inch foot. If you have a 1/4 inch foot, again, just run the 1/4 inch foot against the center line. We're going to sew on those, and then we get through. We're going to cut them apart and press to the darker fabric, and you're going to get your little half squares. We've did this in block 1, but just to show you again, this is the block lock flying geese, or block lock half square ruler, and you can place this here, and you can put the 3.5 at the bottom and here, and if it comes out even, then you can just trim 2 sides and then trim off a tail, or you can do a little bit here, slide the ruler down, and trim the other 2 sides like such. But if you don't have a block lock, you can still use any of the rulers by placing the diagonal line of the ruler, of a square ruler, down the middle, and putting your 3.5 here and here, and then trimming the 2 sides, making sure you keep that diagonal line on the seam. Once we get our half squares all made and trimmed up, you'll need 4 of them. Then we're going to take and we're going to sew the little pieces, the 2 by 3.5 inch pieces to the top, and then the 5-inch pieces to the sides, there. And then we're going to take and put or draw lines on our accent 4 pieces. So I've drawn a diagonal line on the accent 4 squares. They're the 3.5 inch squares. We're going to take this square and we're going to place it right on the corner here, and we're going to sew a line, or sew right on the line. So we're sewing that so that when this folds back, it looks like that. Once we get that done, I'm going to put this one on because it's pressed a little better. You can trim away the excess there to 1/4 inch, and then we're going to take and put the 5-inch piece there, background piece, and then we're going to put the 6.5 inch background piece here. These are 2-inch wide, and sew that to there. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw a line on our accent 3 pieces and place that one on the tip here and fold that back. When we have all of those made, we're making 4 of them. They go on all 4 corners, and then our flying geese are going toward there with our center square. So your border's on, your main print borders, and you've got your flying geese block made. Have fun!